I'm Cory Ondrejka. I'm the CTO of SmartNews. I've worked in various consumer technologies for, well, longer than I'd care to admit on camera. That's such a great question. I'd actually look to two other experiences, the mobile transition at then Facebook, now Meta, and the last 4 years at Google during the emergence of large language models. Because in both cases, we had huge technological transitions that had really profound implications for how people engaged with technology, how they communicated about technology, how information is discovered, created, and shared. And so looking at the news ecosystem, one that has never been more important to us, but also one that has been really struggling economically, really struggling because of disinformation and misinformation, we're now in a moment where technology from AI, large language models, Gen AI, generates both threats and concerns, but more excitingly, also generates opportunities to change how are we going to engage and value both the ecosystem that is news and how people engage with it. And so SmartNews to me was is this incredible company at a perfect moment to capitalize on those transitions. So you have to understand where AI is going as we're moving forward, because as we see AI moving into search and discovery, as we see AI becoming just a standard part of the creative process, the collaboration process. So you have to be thinking about that, which then leads to the second most important thing, which is don't go stealing content. We are in a moment where even more than prior generations, like we saw, say, with YouTube, the opportunity to infringe is quite high. And what's different about AI is AI projects that go and infringe on creative content not only tend to be potentially breaking the law, I'm not a lawyer, but they're breaking the law, but more than that, you're taking away from creatives their control over their voice, their creation going forward. And that misalignment is not going to lead to great products and great companies. And so first and foremost, be thinking about how you're going to build this technology in partnership, in alignment with the people who, frankly, you are going to be depending on. So what's fun about having built games and virtual worlds and social media and other technologies is I've gotten to be really central to multiple waves of virtual environments are the one true path forward and everything's going to be in them. And of course, the reality is it's the learnings from it that are much more important than any particular embodiment. And the learnings are things we know really well, especially this period of COVID. People like to create together, and whether they're using technological affordances to do that, or we're coming together like right now to actually share and understand. You know, the learnings of Second Life are, let's make sure that people can create together. And if we're going to do it through technological mediation, let's make sure that that co-creation keeps happening. And this is where AI is going to play a huge part, because AI is a technology that ends up being a partnered kind of product, because you actually can interact with an AI in these very human-like ways. So in a practical sense, we're practicing some of those interaction models that we would apply to virtual environments with AIs. And then beyond that, AI gives us all these ways to shift modality, right? Whether we're in text or in video or in audio. AI lets us pretty seamlessly move between those in terms of what we present to a user, which means when you and I want to collaborate, we can figure out, is the best way to do it asynchronously in text or in real time in a virtual environment, and to smoothly choose between those two. And I find that super exciting. So data use is such an important topic, and it's one that really varies geographically, where we are. Here in Japan, actually, data use isn't as front and center oftentimes as it would be in the European Union or in the United States. But in all of these jurisdictions, we're seeing an increased awareness from both the creators of data, consumers, the companies that try to utilize the data. And what's really important is when we think about, say, an advertising application of this, where the importance is I need to put an ad in front of you that is valuable and relevant, because otherwise I'm wasting your time, right? And how do I do that in a way that matches your privacy expectations? Think about a search ad moment. You're going in looking for something, so you're signaling really clearly, oh, I want that thing, right? So an ad that shows up there can feel super relevant. And then contrast that with, and we're seeing less of this now thanks to cookies not being used in the same way, but it used to be you'd go look at one thing on the internet and then that ad would just follow you around forever. And that was just a terrible experience. It wasn't meeting a need, it felt invasive. And so I'm really excited by more privacy awareness because it applies the right balance. Because we know we want to put something in front of you that's relevant, but it's also this reminder of what are your privacy expectations? What are your expectations around that moment? And this can apply to personalization of content. It can apply in lots of other areas as well. In news, what we've seen is that personalization tends to reinforce filter bubbles and reward outrage, because you go hyper-personalized in a feed, which is attention reinforcement. And from that, you get incentives to be controversial, to sort of cater to your expectations and not challenge you. And so one of the pieces that I expect to see more of in news, and I'm really excited to be working on this, is how do we get back to more shared experiences around news? Because if we go back even a decade, more of news was experienced where you and I actually had more of a sense of, we saw the same news. And we have more of a sense of we're experiencing the same reality. And that's a much firmer starting place than when we're hyper-personalized. No, and like when we look at technology that comes along, and we're going to talk about this a lot over the course of today, what technology has done since the Industrial Revolution is to wring inefficiencies out of the system. And so the parts of our day that are inefficient, that are tedious, tend to be the ones that we're first able to apply technology to. And so when we look at the current wave of AI, frankly, lots of writers have been using tools, whether it's spell checkers or Grammarly, for years, right? And what comes next? Better search tools even within your own corpus, right? Like, what did you written previously about AI, and can you easily get the right view of it to make your current story better? But none of that's replacing a journalist. And this sort of distinction, now, obviously we will see, just like we've seen content farms apply, we'll see AI get used there. And the arms race that will then need to happen is to make sure that that information, which is fundamentally low quality, is not what we feature when we're having a communication about something important. And so in that sense, AI is useful on both sides, and the companies and organizations that actually care about a mission of delivering quality information, of caring about discourse being effective, are going to be using AI on that side of it, not to just generate garbage information.